Coming up on today's episode, I recap my shows in Salt Lake City and Tempe. One of my favorite runs I've done on this whole tour. Excited to talk about it. And then take a quick break and come back and talk about my first ever theater show that I did last night. Going to tell you about what my experience was doing stand-up in a big-ass theater. And if you want to come see me do stand-up in not a big-ass theater, but a normal-sized comedy club, I'm going to be in Raleigh, October 10th at Good Nights Comedy Club. And then October 11th in Charlotte. And then the next week, I will be in Cincinnati at the Liberty Township Funny Bone. That is October 18th. And then Columbus, October 19th. And then my Makeup Hurricane rescheduled show in Orlando, October 29th. It's a Sunday, so that's awesome. Hopefully more people can come. After that, I'm just going to run through the rest of them for the rest of the year. Omaha, November 8th. Kansas City, November 9th. Hartford, Connecticut, November 16th. And then Boston, I'm doing a weekend. 3 shows. It's a big deal. November 17th to the 18th. Tickets are flying fast for the Saturday early, by the way. That's like halfway sold out, so get those tickets. December 6th, Indianapolis. December 7th, St. Louis. And then December 19th to the 20th, I'll be in Naples, Florida with all the rich old people. Can't wait for those shows. I've heard they're so fun. And then I finish out the year in Fort Lauderdale, December 21st, right before Christmas. And I totaled it up for the whole year. I'm doing 43 cities the whole year. That's a lot of cities. So having a blast, having so much fun, getting better at it. Can't wait to see you guys on the road. And let's start the episode right now. We are back on the pod. And look, man, thanks for being here. Thanks for being an OG fan of the show. Because if you think about it, all the people, including you, that are consuming the show right now, you're like an OG fan because this hasn't blown up yet. So you get to say, when this podcast does blow up, you get to say, wow, I've been there since the beginning. I've been with Will when he was still, didn't know what to do with his hands. And that's a nice thing for you, And so I appreciate you. And if you're one of those people, please like and subscribe, do all the things that helps the show. And it's just nice to be with you guys. Hope you had a good weekend. Well, it's Wednesday by now, so the weekends, you're kind of already looking forward to the next one. So hope everyone's doing well. It is Sunday today that I'm recording this. Had a nice little day watching football. I'm in town for the next 2 weeks. I'm here, which 2 weeks off is weird. I like the every other week traveling. I like the week on, week off, week on type of thing, because by the time I hit that second week off, I'm a little antsy. Kind of want to get back out there. I like earning a week in town as opposed to like that second week. I'm a little like, all right, let's get this. Let's get out of here. Right. And it's a funny realization now. It's, I'm on this really cool, fun tour now. And it's weird to think about that. I have to do the road because that's really my only income. My primary source, I'd say 90% of the money I make is now from the road on this tour. So as fun as the tour is, it's now become, well, I have to go. If I want to make money, I have to go on tour, which is, hey, no problem there. I love an excuse to go on tour, but it's a funny realization. As fun as it is, now it's become a necessity, which is a weird thing, but it's a good thing. I'm very thankful that is a necessity. Thanks to you guys buying tickets. So things are going well enough that I can make money. How cool is that? I know some people who are doing it and not doing as well. So I'm very thankful that you guys are coming out to these shows. It means a lot. And speaking of shows, I got back on Thursday from doing another back-to-back one-nighters. I did Salt Lake City and Phoenix at the Tempe Improv, and it was one of my absolute favorite trips I've done. Absolutely, it started off so easy because the travel to these places is probably the easiest travel of the whole tour. Honestly, I mean, yeah, because the Bay Area, that's pretty close, but we drove there 5 hours. San Diego was easy, but you're still in the car for, 3 hours getting there. So that's not fun. But Salt Lake, Phoenix, all that shit. I mean, Burbank to Salt Lake, hour flight. Salt Lake to Phoenix, hour. Phoenix, Burbank, hour. So I took a bunch of hour-long flights. It was beautiful. So nice. And again, flying out of the Burbank airport, I've mentioned on this podcast, is the absolute best. If you live in LA, you know what I'm talking about. If you don't, Burbank is just the best airport. It's small, it's tiny, it's efficient, quick. We love it. There's like 8 gates. It's awesome. So flew out of Salt Lake. I brought my buddy Anthony Sturriddy to open for me in Salt Lake. And we were in the airport. And this dude comes up wearing sunglasses, comes up to us, kind of a younger guy. And he's like, he comes up to us. He says, hey, what seats are you guys in? Already weird. because you don't need to know what seats we're in, right? This is already going to be some sort of weird interaction. I can't imagine what you're going to do with that information. Are you going to change your seat to sit next to us? I don't know what you're planning, but based off where we're sitting, right? So he asked us, and sure enough, the boy was reeking of booze. He had been ripping it. Our flight was at 10. This boy had been cooking. And he said, we said what seats we were in. He said, yeah, I'm a little bit of a nervous flyer. I had some drinks, and we were like, yeah, we know. And he was saying, the reason I bring this up is because he was saying, he gets nervous flying. And look, I get nervous flying too sometimes. I've become honestly almost obsessed with flying because it kind of scares me. And so I've been, not a lot of people know this, and I very rarely talk about this. It's really dorky, but I actually watch a lot of like airplane content on YouTube. And no one really knows that. And I've never really talked about that. I'm not joking when I say I've watched like videos of like in the cockpit, like pilots flying and what they do during takeoff, what they do during landing. It's really dorky, but I think it's because that deep down flying really scares me and has for a long time. And it's a way of almost getting control back, because that's the whole thing of why you're scared of flying is you have zero control. There's nothing more in your life that you have less control of than flying. You cannot do anything to control what's happening.
Could you get into a flight simulator hobby, you think?
Dude, you know what's funny? I absolutely would. I'm trying to think what the amount of money I would pay to do a flight simulator. I would pay $200, I think, to do a flight simulator. Have someone tell me what everything is. I would love to do that. I should do it. I bet that's a thing you can do. I just am fascinated with the process of flying. It's just so interesting to me. Not enough to get my pilot's license, because I would crash for sure. I'd be like Harrison Ford on a little single jet plane crashing on a golf course. That would be me. And I'm not Harrison Ford, okay? If Han Solo is going to crash, your boy's crashing for sure. But I just am fascinated. I've watched, I even watched vlogs of this couple who just flies. That's their whole thing. They fly and review airlines. They're like, oh, we're going to take 3 first-class flights today and review which one's the best. I'm in, dude. I'm consuming that content. Literally, what I travel for a living, and I'm consuming content of people traveling. It's kind of crazy, but there's something about it that really fascinates me. The whole process of flying. I like even knowing what the noises are. I can even, watching cockpit videos, sounds like gay porn, watching cockpit videos, the way, like, I know what they're doing when the plane's taking off. I know, like, oh, this is the point where they do this. This is the point where they put the gears up. I like knowing that stuff, and it's really interesting to me.
Can the fans get top 3 airline choices when flying to California?
Ooh, I like that. I like that question. Mike, coming in hot. I would say my favorite airlines, I would say, okay, I'm going to give a really controversial first pick. It's Spirit in the big seat in the front. Okay, so normally Spirit, bad rap, bad airline, sure. You can say all the things you want, but they have the option of getting a first class seat for a very affordable price. And what I mean is you have the 2 seats you have 4 seats right in the front, 2 and 2, and you have this big seat, ton of space, and that is so valuable, right? There's no other airline that you can get that type of seat on. And I remember my flight from one way from Columbus back to LA, nonstop on Spirit with the first class seat, $280. Dude, that's huge. If I did that on Delta, that'd be $1,200. And yeah, sure, the bags and the seats, blah, 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 but that's all I paid for that seat. So to fly first class for that amount of money, and granted, I'm not getting the meals and the bullshit and the drinks. I don't need that stuff. I don't need a glass of champagne at 9 a.m. Like, no. And I'd say that's my number 1. Number 2, I'd probably say Delta. Delta is probably the most, I like having the TV option. TV's nice. You can even tell the flight stats of, like, you can literally on the Delta thing, look at the altitude of how high you are. That I like seeing just because I'm into the dorky flying stuff. So even on the descent, you can track of, how many feet you're in the air. I think that stuff's really interesting. So I would say Delta number 2 and then Southwest 3, because of being able to pick the seats is great. And I always get close to the front. I'm off quick. I like Southwest. Even though they absolutely fucked me over Christmas last year during their Southwest meltdown, we got screwed by them. That was crazy. But they made up for it. We ended up paying like hundreds of dollars. Kaylee and I were in the Bay Area visiting my family. We were stranded, and we paid like hundreds of dollars for a rental car, and they reimbursed me. So shout out to Southwest for making up for your mistakes.
Fun fact, if you travel on a Sunday, Virgin America, you can watch football. So
whoa,
kudos to that.
But is Virgin still a thing? Virgin is still an airline?
Well, maybe not. Last time I flew on Virgin, I've watched football.
How long ago was that?
It was a few years.
There you go. But I hope you're right, because that would be fun to watch football on a plane, all buffering and shit. Going back to the reason I brought up this whole guy, he said he's a nervous flyer, is because he said he was nervous about flying, right? And he was having some drinks, which I get. And he said, yeah, ever since that Travis Barker plane crash, he was like, yeah, if Travis can crash, we all can crash. I'm like, hey guy, can you not say this in the gate? We're about to get on the flight. You can't say. He was like Ben Stiller in Meet the Parents, like bomb, 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 bomb. I'm like, bro, this is like the one thing you can't say. Now I'm a nervous flyer. Now I need to get some drinks, man. So funny start. We had one of the smaller planes, like the 2-row flights, and boy, we were getting thrown around a little bit on that descent. Oh boy, it's like Six Flags.
That's a feature of the Burbank airport because it's a smaller airport. I will tell you, my first flight into LA was the Burbank airport, and your boy didn't do so well.
Yeah,
on the descent, he got a little
dicey. Yeah, I remember the craziest flight I think I took was from Burbank to Vegas during some insane wind. It was one of those LA days where it was like 40-mile-an-hour winds, and that was crazy. We were getting tossed around, pretty intense. But if I always make sure I have a window seat because I like looking at what's going on. If there's nothing happening and we're bumping around, I'm like, cool, that's all good. I gotta know what's going on. I think my least favorite flying experience is if there's turbulence on a red eye. That's the worst because you can't see shit and you're just getting thrown around and you don't know what's happening. I need to see what's happening. I need control, a little bit of control, at least to see what's going on. Did I plan on talking about flying this much this episode? No. Do I have so much other shit to get to? Yeah, I have so many other things, and I've spent fucking 20 minutes on flying. Some of you guys really like this content, though. Some of you guys really like the flying content. So we get to Salt Lake, and gonna keep talking about travel because the Salt Lake airport is my new favorite airport because they have a train right outside the door of where you get picked up by the cars, right outside the door, a train that takes you right to downtown where we're staying. I'm talking you get out of the airport and train's right there. $5, boom, downtown, 15 minutes. Crazy. I did not get in one Uber this entire trip. And I'll explain why after when I get to Phoenix. But not one Uber. That's unheard of. So the train system was beautiful. First observation about Salt Lake, that is the most quiet city I've ever been to. The airport, quiet. The streets, quiet. Downtown Salt Lake, shh. There's no one here. It was quiet. I don't know where all those Mormons were, but they were quiet. Maybe they were asleep because they don't really drink caffeine. They're sleepy. Maybe they're sleepy Mormons. That's why they were so quiet. But man, that city was quiet and also beautiful. The mountains, the air quality, it was beautiful weather. I'm into it. But I will say, I was going to say this after, but I'll say this now. I've realized certain cities, if you don't go do much in them, like Salt Lake, I didn't really do anything. I had no experience. I just was like in the hotel, show, airport, done. And it's like I have no opinion about Utah. And I've realized I'm basically, if I don't get out and do something, like for example, when I went to Nashville and I went out on Broadway, right, and went out drinking in the country bars, I'm like, cool. I feel like I have an opinion about Nashville. Utah, I have zero opinion. I'm realizing that I'm judging a city based off the weather. That's the only thing. Because that's the only thing I'm really experiencing. Like, for example, Atlanta, not great. Because the weather was a nightmare. So I didn't do anything in Atlanta other than be outside for a little while. And the weather was dog shit. So I was like, well, maybe I don't like Atlanta. Or maybe I do. The only thing I have to base it off of is the weather. Boring take, but that's my life. So Utah, I don't know. The weather is beautiful. And the airport was easy. I think I like this place. That's all I got. I do the show on a Tuesday at this club, Wise Guys Comedy Club, which is a pretty notorious, well-known club that I've done one other time opening, and it was great. So I was very excited to be back there. But it's on a Tuesday. And this is only my second Tuesday show of this tour. And, I was a little nervous because those are hard days to sell, man. Wednesday's also hard. Thursday's easier, but Tuesday's tough, man. And the only other Tuesday I've show was in Louisville, and I sold 51 tickets, which made sense because I didn't have a big demand in Louisville. And if you heard that episode, there was no surprises there. My agent and I knew going into it, and Louisville was going to be a little light. And Salt Lake was the same thing. I was thinking, in terms of an email list, I only have about, I don't know, 50 emails, 60 emails, I don't know, as opposed to, let's say, like a Chicago, I probably have like 400 emails there. So just as a frame of reference. So Salt Lake, I was like, I don't know, man. And on a Tuesday, we'll see what happens. And boy, I was really surprised and really happy. I sold over 100 tickets on a Tuesday. Pumped. Really excited. Salt Lake really came through for me, and I was pumped. The club was happy. The guy who runs the club is one of my favorite managers ever. His name is Keith. He actually runs, if you guys have ever seen a Dry Bar comedy special, they're these like clean comedy specials that a lot of people have out that are really well produced. He runs that company. So he's just a good guy to know and just the coolest guy. He was happy. He was saying, oh, after this, you got to go do my club in Vegas, and just a real positive club experience. He was just awesome. And my whole thing is, hey, if the club's happy, I'm happy. And the show was fantastic. The show was so much fun, dude. The crowd was great. They were not too, they weren't too crazy. They were just a perfect balance of a group of people, and I just had an absolute blast. I think I'm going to get some really good clips from the show. I felt really funny. Just a great experience, top to bottom. I had a really funny comic host the show, who you should go follow. His name is Trey Lamb. He already has a nice little bit of a following. He's been doing comedy about the same amount of time as I have. He started in LA and then moved to Utah during COVID, and now he's just running the Utah scene. And he gave me some good pointers about microphone equipment, trying to get up my sound game for these clips, and just an overall great dude, really funny comic. So shout out to Trey on that. And yeah, show was great. Really, the only note I had for kind of my experience during the show was, I always try to squeeze in maybe one or two newer jokes in my set, and sometimes you can feel it. I can feel the difference in the laugh based off that new joke. And there was one time that I kind of lost the crowd for like a minute and a half, 2 minutes during the show, because I was trying a newer thing that still is a little inconsistent. And, after I did that, I was like, man, I don't need to be doing that. I don't need to be doing newer stuff on these shows. To me, this show should be I can't remember the word. Basically, the culmination of all of my work should be this 50 minutes, this hour of material. I shouldn't be taking risks and trying new stuff. I think the reason I was doing that is because I wanted to make the shows a little exciting for me. Have a little bit of a little excitement afterwards. I have a little bit more of a victory if I get a new thing to work. But the way that felt, the way I kind of lost the crowd for a minute or two, I didn't like the feeling. So I think, as I've said a million times, I'm still learning how to be a headliner. And I think in this instance, I'm now in the camp of like, let me just put on the best possible show I can. If I'm in town doing shows in LA, that's where I can work on the new stuff, try to get it better so it's more consistent, and then put it back into my act. But on the road, if you want to come see me, I'm giving you the best of. No games anymore. No fucking around. I'm giving you the hits. Because you're paying. This is the big tour. Only the hits, right? So I learned a lot from that show. I got a legit backhanded compliment in the meet and greet, which this barely was even backhanded. Like, this was just a guy insulting me. Dude, in the meet and greet, this guy was like, oh man, such a fun show, man. You're so funny. I was trying to get my friends to come with me, but they didn't think you were funny enough. Oh, thanks, man. Thanks for telling me that to my face while I have my arm around you to take a picture. That's really nice of you to tell me how not funny I am. Thank you, dude. Clueless. But you get used to that shit. You're like, all right, man. Some people just don't know what to say to you. But don't say that, Don't say, yeah, they were going to come, but they didn't like you. They didn't think you were funny. Anyways, see you later, man. Have fun sitting there with that information tonight in your hotel room. Which, by the way, your boy got an upgrade on the hotel. What's good? Got the upgrade. Had fucking 2 living rooms. Electric blinds. I almost stayed in Utah. So nice. Electric blinds meaning you push a button and it goes. Whew, nice. But overall, Salt Lake was awesome. If you were there, thanks for coming on a Tuesday. I'm pumped. Left Utah feeling pumped. Had a great night. Then we went to Phoenix, and again, a quick flight, boom, hour, boom, Phoenix. And what's extra cool about the Tempe Improv, which is a club in Phoenix, that's the club I was doing. I had been there before, opening for Brent Morin, and I traveled from LA to Phoenix with him, and the club had a black car service that took you everywhere, meaning picked him up from the airport, picked him up from the hotel, dropped you off at the club, was waiting at the club when you were done to take you back to the hotel. So it's like a black car service everywhere. And so I was kind of like, ooh, I wonder if that's a thing for him only. Maybe they only do that to weekend headliners. Dude, your boy got the black car service. I was getting picked up in a Jaguar for every stop. It was nice. I was a fancy little bitch back there. It was so nice being a black car service dude. And it was funny enough, same driver as when I went with Brent a year and a half ago. Same guy. I don't know if he sleeps in the Jaguar, but same guy. Shout out to Charles. It's my guy. So that made it all really nice. Hence the whole didn't take an Uber the whole time, because we had the train in Salt Lake and a black car service in Phoenix. It was awesome. And that's one of my favorite towns. Tempe is a great town. ASU, that's where that school is. A lot of college kids, a lot of bars, but I don't really hit the bars much. I just like the city. It's very cute. It's nice. It's Arizona, so the weather's probably nice. Just a cool place. I've been 3 times now, and I just like that club a lot. And I had Anthony came with me to that show as well, and then and Nolan, who you guys now know from the podcast, he popped over, hosted the show, and funny enough, dude, Nolan's so funny, dude. He's kind of clueless sometimes. I invited him. I was like, hey, if you want to go to Tempe, I can bring 2 people. And I gave him the dates, and he was like, oh man, I can't make it. Nah, I'm actually I can't go to Phoenix. I'm gonna be in Scottsdale for a bachelor party. Hey guy, that's right there. And he was like, oh yeah, oh great, wow, I could do the show. I'm like, yeah man, you for sure can do the show. So he did the show. We were really laughing about it because he was like, oh man, can't do it. I'm gonna be in Phoenix. I'm like, yeah man, so am I.
If you're not familiar with the area, it is like a patch of all the cities all in one little thing. Mm-hmm. Where it would be like if it was Los Angeles, it's like that's Beverly Hills, North Hollywood, and but that's every major city you've heard of in Arizona, and you assume they're spread out.
Yeah, exactly. They're all right there. So it's almost as if you're like, I can't do a show in LA. I'm going to be in Beverly Hills that day. Same type of idea. So I was really making fun of them for that. But the point is, I had both my guys there. Both my guys were with me at Tempe, and which was really fun to not have, to just have reliable people who I always know and trust. And it was so much fun. They stayed in the same hotel as me, and just had a friendship time, man. We had an absolute blast. And tell you what, this club actually really means a lot to me, because I had I had my most like formative experience there, arguably in comedy. It was that weekend when I was with Brent. And what happened basically was I was featuring. So I was doing that, 20-minute middle spot. And we did, the weekend. So I did the first show Thursday, and I didn't have that good of a set. This was about a year and a half ago. Didn't have that good of a set. And actually, no, I think it was longer than that. Was it a year? No, actually, it was in March of 22. Didn't have that good of a set, and I was pretty upset. I went back to the hotel that night, and I basically spent the night like reworking my whole set, retooling everything, figuring out new, different creative ways to get laughs, different callbacks, different crowd work things. I really like created this whole new system for what my set was going to be. And so I come back the Friday night, and on the first show, I had one of the best sets I've had in my entire life. And sure enough, for the rest of the other 3 shows, it was the best sets I have had in comedy. So it was almost like I leveled up. Something clicked in that town at that club. It was just the most memorable, special experience to me. People who worked at the club were like, wow, you were like, damn. People felt what I was doing. People felt the impact of like, this guy's kind of killing right now as the opener. Even Brent, who's my guy, he was saying, I remember we were at a bar after the last show. He was poking me, and he said, I've never seen you kill that hard. I'll never forget that. So to me, the Tempe Improv is a very important club to me. So doing the show was a really big deal. This was one of the clubs that I had requested from my agent when I signed with her. Was basically like, this is one of the clubs I have to do is Tempe, because of how important this place was to me. And unfortunately, the ticket sales, I was a little disappointed. I got to be honest. I'm always going to keep it real with you guys. I think they were moving really slow, and it was a Wednesday, so anything over like 100 is like great, right? A Wednesday, that's a hard day to sell. But I'd done a couple big Wednesdays at this point. I remember Dallas. on a Wednesday, I did almost 230 tickets, 230, 240 on a Wednesday. Huge. Nashville, 210. And I had about the same amount of emails on my email list, which I'm bringing up the email list because that's how I've been able to gauge my demand in certain cities. Back in the Just Us days, that's how I would tailor the first beginning of parts of the tour where I should go is based off how many emails I have, right? A city like Chicago, obviously you got to go there because there's a lot of people that would come see you. As opposed to like a Louisville, I have 15 emails. So not going to sell a lot of tickets, which is okay. But you just got to tailor that. So in Phoenix, I had about as many emails as I had in like a Dallas. So I was ready to blow that shit up. I was like, oh, let's go. I'm feeling really confident of all the shows, the Phoenix one. But ticket sales were moving really slow. And I was like, damn, why do I have almost as many tickets in Salt Lake? What's going on with Phoenix? Ended up doing a little over 150. I think had a few comps. They're doing these things for veterans where this thing called Vet Tix. I don't know if you've ever heard of that, Mike. It's called Vet Tix, where they give basically free tickets to veterans, which I love. And it's awesome. And I've seen a few people who've come to shows from Vet Tix. So shout out to the veterans. Happy they're able to come. So I think with that, it was like 170, I think, total, which is awesome objectively. It's awesome. That's a great amount of tickets. The club was pumped, which is always the biggest deal for me is how does the club feel? Club was happy. I was a little disappointed because of my own expectations. And it's kind of, I don't know what else I could have done. I felt okay about it. So I wasn't going up there all bummed. Oh, this show sucks. But, had a little bit of different expectations. And I'm still learning. Still learning my demand in certain areas. Still learning what to expect for shows. Tell you what, man, the show itself, fun show, great show. I was a little nervous at first, though. Watching Nolan and Anthony go up. Crowd was a little tight. And I was like, what's going on here? Come on. A lot of people here. Come on, Phoenix. Let's get it going. What was funny is that in the front row, there was like the first beginning of the rows in the front were like empty, and they had VIP little mini signs on them. And I was like, literally, like, I was like, hey, where are these fucking VIPs? What happened to these people? They're too important to come? I was upset because it looked silly. It was like VIP and just empty seats. I was like, by the time I got on stage during my set, I knocked the things over. I was like, fuck these people. And I like kicked over the VIP signs, which who knows if that was a good move or not. But yeah, it was like a giant group of VIP people just didn't show up. So that felt nice. Cool. But the show was great. Someone cut me off very early on in my set, and that made me real mad. I was doing one of my stronger jokes, and right as I was about to hit a punchline, someone yelled something out, and that it was like a funny kind of callback to something I said earlier, and I was gonna ignore it, but people started laughing from this woman saying something, and so I was like, I had to like stop and acknowledge the moment, because people were already laughing, so it was such a distraction, and I literally sat down and was like, and I started like lecturing the audience. I was like, hey, we're not gonna be doing this. I know you had a fun little moment there, but this is not how this is going to go. You see, you interrupted one of my stronger jokes, and now I can't do it. And all these people really wanted to hear that, and now they can't because of you. I legit said that on stage because I was like, we're not doing this. And of course, it was one of my stronger jokes too, right at the punchline. And I still did the joke because people were like, do it. And I did it, and it got like a whatever response. I was like, yeah, no shit, man, because you fucking interrupted me. So that was annoying. It was some like older woman, like a middle-aged woman who just didn't know how it worked. During the meet and greet, she came up and was like, oh, should I not have done that? I'm like, yeah, you shouldn't have. How do you not know that? See, I'm getting pissed now. Imagine how I felt on stage. It was a little bit of a wild show, though. It was, Phoenix, Tempe. It's a party town, so people were a little wild, a little drunk. I had to kind of rein them in a little bit, but boy, it ended up being really fun. I was having so much fun doing crowd work that I had to actually stop myself from doing more. I can always, I have my timer on the stool, so I can always gauge how much time I'm at. And I remember looking and I was like, oh shit, I got to do jokes. Like I could have kept doing crowd stuff for a long time, and I think the crowd would have been fine with that, but I had to really stop myself. Like, gee, yo, come on, do your jokes. Overall, I feel really, really good about the show. Felt really good. I knew I was going to get some good clips out of it. I liked what I did with my set. I didn't do the newer stuff, just gave them the best show I could. And I felt really good about it, really strong. I think I'm, not only am I getting more experience doing this and being more comfortable up there, but I'm just getting better. I'm just getting better as a headliner because now I've been doing it for almost 10 months now. You just get better, which is so fun. and so satisfying. The meet and greet was great. And really the best thing you want to hear from the club was, what my goal is for these things is I will, obviously tell the manager, hey, thanks for having me. Would love to come back. And the guy was like, oh, would love to have you back. Let's do a Friday, Saturday next time. Yes. That's what I want to hear. I want to level up to weekends. So him saying that, I was like, yes, it was the cherry on top. Pumped. Because that's my goal, is to do weekends. And then my boys, Anthony and Nolan, and I just had the best night ever after, dude. We stayed up like almost all night just laughing in the hotel, like a sleepover. We had the cutest night ever. We snuck up onto the roof deck, this beautiful pool chair view of Phoenix. We went up there in the hotel, kicked it up there for a while until security got us. And I just had the best night, man. Being with both my buddies, man, just laughing and just crying, laughing, having a blast after doing comedy. It's just the best life. I really am so lucky to be able to live this life and have that be my job, is to go to cool cities with my friends, tell jokes, and then goof around at night in like a nice hotel. We were staying at a Westin. 3 dickheads staying in like a nice hotel, getting driven around in a Jaguar. What is my life? It's beautiful. And I have you guys to thank for it. So thank you for letting me do this, because it's so cool. We're going to take a break. But again, shout out to people who came out to Phoenix. You guys were awesome. Shout out to Salt Lake. You guys were awesome. Everybody was great. It was such a great trip. I cannot wait to be back. So thank you again. And I'm going to take a break and be right back and talk about my first ever theater show. I did it last night. I'm going to talk about it in a second. Be right back. So last night I did a show at a theater, an actual big ass theater, that's the step up from comedy clubs, right? So a comedy club will be anywhere from 200 seats to 400, sometimes 500. And a theater is more like, 500 to 1,000 to 2,000, who knows? But our average theater is maybe about 1,000 seats. I went to Santa Barbara and did a theater with my boy Michael Blaustein, who was doing a theater out there, and he's slowly turning into a theater comic, which that's basically like the promotion after clubs as you start to do theaters. And so it's a big deal when you get to that level. That means you're selling so many tickets that it just makes more sense to move to a theater. And it does make sense because you're essentially going from doing 4 shows to doing 1 show. You're taking 1,200 people over the course of 4 shows, right? And just putting them into 1 show. So you go to a city, do the show, and you're out of there, as opposed to doing a lot of work. So that's kind of the perks of doing that, right? And it's a better experience. It looks cool. It feels cool. It's just it's a more lavish version of stand-up. There's not as many chicken tenders involved. There's no people aren't paying their checks. There's no wait staff. It's just a show. So there's a lot of good perks, but it's a very different experience. And I had never experienced it before until now. And I think it'd be cool to tell you guys about it because it is a very interesting experience. That was my first experience doing it. And the opening spot in a theater is very hard. I went first and I did 20 minutes before him. And it's a hard spot because in theaters, and this is also what Michael has told me as well, because he opened on Trevor Wallace's theater tour. And so he told me kind of what to expect what to expect basically. And a lot of times people are still being sat when you get on stage. So it's sometimes you're playing to like 70% of the room, 60% of the room. And those first 5 to 10 minutes is like, are tough because people aren't ready. They're not sat yet. They're confused. Where's my seat? Where's your seat? So it's a little, you're up there like, trying, I'm funny. Watch, trust me, Luckily, we started a little late, so most of the audience was sat. So I was ready to rock. And boy, it's a really cool feeling being up there, man. It's such a different feel on stage. The ceilings are really high. The stage is big, long, lit up. You have the speakers on the stage. The people are much farther away. It's much more dark. It's just a different feel. You can walk around a bunch, which I like to do, and I think that's nice to be able to play to different parts of the room. People woo. A lot of woos in a theater for some reason. People love to woo. But boy, it's a different feeling when you get a laugh in a theater though. And I don't know if I love it. I gotta be honest. It's because of the whole thing with the ceilings is so important, because when you hit a laugh, you want it to almost bounce up and come back, right? If that makes sense. And if it's a low ceiling, everything's packed in and loud and you're all in it together. But in a theater, or a club that has really high ceilings, the laugh just kind of fades away into the darkness, right? And so you feel that. So when you hit a big pop in a club, you just, it's this energy of raw, like you feel it. In a theater, it's more it's just a different feeling. And so I was happy with how I did. I was happy with my set. I wasn't there to necessarily kill and show off. Look how funny I am. When you're an opener, it's like, you gotta set the crowd up. Don't do anything disruptive, and be there for your boy or your girl or whoever you're opening for. I think you have a job to do, and that's how I did it. I did my job, and it was fun, man, because Blaustein's my guy, one of my best friends, and he got to bring me out from the they call it the God mic. It's backstage where you get to yell into it like, "Yeah, you guys ready for a show?" Everyone's like, "Yeah," and he's like, "Give it up for one of my best friends, Will Burkart." And I ran out, and it was like, wow, look at, it's cool to go from doing like the Omaha Funny Bone, as good of a club as that is, to being in like a theater backstage. You got all the lights, and he's there. It was really cool experience. And so yeah, I did my job. I had a fun set, but it's just a different feeling doing a theater. And I will be doing a few more with him. I think next year I'm going to do a couple of theaters with him, because he's doing some big ones in like Chicago and places like that, where he's going to just be a shitload of people. And I think I really want to experience more of what that's like, because this is my first experience with it, and I feel like I need more of a taste to figure out how I feel about this, because just based off of that, I don't know if I really love doing stand-up in a theater. I think it's a very fancy, cool looking show, but as an art form, as a feeling on stage, it's just better in a comedy club. And which is weird to say, because you work so hard to get to theaters, and then you get there and you're kind of like, it's like, it doesn't feel as good. It's not as fun, which it should be more fun. I think, again, it's less effort, because you're going from doing 4 shows to 1 show. But where I stand now, and again, talk to me when I'm actually doing theaters, but part of me, I think, would rather do clubs. I think I would rather do 4 shows that are sold out in a 300 seat room, rather than do 1 theater and feel kind of disconnected from the people. And I don't know, Mike, if you have any opinions on that, if you've been a part of any theater shows or anything like that, but it's just a different type of experience,
Well, my time on stage.
Yeah, well, you are one of my favorite comics. So I don't know, man. Just as an audience member, even, I wonder what the experience is. Probably a little more comfy, a lot more focus. You're just have this. It's like you're watching a movie, as opposed to like eating dinner, drinking, and doing a whole thing, kind of being distracted. But
I will give an interesting perspective as an audience member. I've noticed that a lot of comedy specials are bouncing back and forth between whether they want to shoot in clubs or shoot in theaters, and it's a flex to shoot on theaters and have the big cameras and the jibs and all of that different stuff. But like you said, it isn't necessarily the same reaction. And I know you have to speed up the editing and kind of do a little mix matching to make it feel better for the home audience when it's a theater show, because it is a little different, where the people filming in the clubs, it's quick run and gun, and it has that intimate feel like you're there. And there is a value to that.
Yeah. For sure. And you're right. And that's probably why my buddy Blaustein is shooting his special in Denver at the Comedy Works, because he wants probably that intimate, cool, banging feel, because that's one of the best clubs in the country. And I think that's, if I had to shoot a special, I would much rather, sorry for keep hitting the mic, I'd much rather do it in a club, because that's what I think stand-up really is. It should be done in a comedy club. But the theater, it's more of, it's more of a show. You sell more tickets. It all makes sense. But I don't know, man. I may prefer, again, I'm going to hold my opinions until I do more. We'll talk again next year about if I do some more theaters and see how I really feel. Because I think doing a blown out, packed theater, 1,000 people or some shit, I'm sure it's sick. So let's hold the opinions. Let me check in when I do one of those with him later next year, and we'll check in again and see how I feel. But as of now, as of September 24th, I'm like, theaters, cool, feels nice. I think I want to do a club.
I'll be interesting to hear your talks about the Chicago theater, because if it's
I don't
the one
think we're doing the Chicago theater, but
there's one in Chicago I know where everyone still is very stacked up and close to you, even though it is a double or triple stacked theater, and that might be a happy medium of where there's so many people that the laughs are coming down upon you. Maybe
you're right. I think that's how the Wilbur is too in Boston. I think that's basically 2 comedy clubs like stacked on top of each other. So again, those could all be fucking sick. I'm happily will be wrong. I hope I'm wrong. I want to be able to do theaters and have fun. So This is just my open and honest experience from doing my first theater show. And obviously I had a great time, but a little different. So I'm going to try to, sell out comedy clubs first. Let's get there and then worry about fucking theaters. But I feel like I want to just fill you guys in on that. Had a cool first experience and hope to do more. I'm excited to do more. So look, that's the podcast this week, man. Just a little couple recaps for you. And I appreciate you being a part of it. Next week, I think I'm going to finally do this. I think we're finally going to do Shoegate with Kaylee on the show. What Shoegate is it's effectively the most hate I've ever gotten on the internet. I posted a video that you may have seen where a woman basically rushed the stage and tried to tie my shoes. And I posted the clip and I got an incredible amount of hate on the internet for a while. And it was intense. And I wanted to wait to do a full recap of that experience until I had a platform to talk about it. And now I do. And I want to bring Kaylee on is because she was very much wrapped up in it. We had one night where we were just looking through comments, being so upset, commenting back to people. Like it got intense. Should we have done that? Probably not. But again, I want to give you the full breakdown of what happened. And also I would like to do second opinion with her. So if you have any advice questions for her, again, she's a working therapist, so she can't legally give you therapy advice, but as a human, she gives you really good advice. So if you need help with something, whether it's relationships, career, life, mindset, write us in, man. Write us into the podcast on the Instagram page @willbepodcast, just Will and then the letter B podcast. So I'd like to do a second opinion next week. So write in some stuff to us and let's chat, man. Let's get some advice. Either way, that's the podcast. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Thanks to Big Mike for producing. Like and subscribe. We'll see you next week. Have a great week, man. We'll see you soon.
And Shoegate lady, if you want to email in, we will Zoom call you next week.
I thought about it. Maybe we'll do it. Who knows? I actually want to call my boy who's the manager of the Milwaukee Improv where that happened. I want to try to get him on the phone to get his take. So more to come. We'll see you next week. Bye, guys.